Good morning. It is Friday morning. It is time for Fridays with Frank. And before I bring out Frank, don't forget, like, subscribe, comment. And by the way, I'm Scott Cullen, editor-in-chief of the Cannata Report, and it's always good to be with you on a Friday morning. So, Frank, how you doing today? What's on your mind?
Well, I'm doing fine, and I'm still working on that list that Dominic Mantrelli from BPCA was kind enough to share with us that we couldn't use for the panel we did for them. And we've got another interesting question that we received. I wish I knew the names of the dealers that provided these, but unfortunately I don't. I think they're damn good. The question is, how do you stop this race to the bottom mentality? That's got to plague a lot of dealers, particularly in areas like MPS. I would think the pressure on the dealers with A4 replacing A3 to some extent, and it's only going to increase. I don't think it's going to go away or get any less. So really, how do you go about stopping this? There's only one way, that you have to move away from the traditional products where you've got a large audience that are still active. And let's face it, the dealers that remain in the business are very sustainable. They've gone through the worst of it and the best of it. So you got tough competition on that. That's not going to change. So on the traditional MPS world, yeah, that type of product. You have other specialty products that we've talked about, and infinitum that you can sell where the competition is far less, and there's less of that rushing to the bottom mentality. But it's all about how you're going to deal with what's coming next. Rather than saying you're going to be able to change something or do something that's going to change the pressure on pricing in those basic products like A3, A4, I don't see how you do that. Every time you turn around, there's something else that crops up. Not that long ago, we learned from a good friend at Mars about the inundation of used A3s coming in from Europe. That's affected the used market considerably. And I know it's given a lot of concerns to the leasing companies, because the market value, when they write a lease, they look at what's the return when the lease is completed. What's the market value of the products that you basically rented for 3 years or 4 years? Well, it's probably half of what they estimated it would be today. That's a big hit. And they got to write that off. And I don't think they're happy about doing it. Also, what they're going to start to do is issue some increases in their leases to protect them against this. Because who's to say that's not going to happen again? So, as I said, you have to look at, one way is you look at what's coming and getting involved in what's out there that is not in the traditional area. Now, this is another way of saying diversification. But that's the truth. What else can you do to move away from the competitive environment where people are in there and aggressively pricing and getting to the point where in some cases it's ridiculous? Dealers have to wonder, what am I doing this for? But the way you do it is you latch on to products where you can make a significant dent in the business. In a recent Fridays with Frank, we talked about Metro Sales selling implants. That's brilliant. Moving away from commercial printers for production print to sell implant. Fantastic. It's working like a charm. They're making lots of money. And that's what has to be done. And I don't want to go through the old bromide that we're always preaching, but you got to look at these other products that print. And I'm totally convinced that if dealers become more aware of what's there, they'd be far less concerned. For instance, Printing United is coming up in September. That's a huge show. From our aspects and booking for the meeting, it's a sellout. It really is. It's going to be a hell of a show. And CJ and I are looking forward to attending. But that's a show that dealers should go to. Even if you want to, if it's convenient for you, West Coast, you live in the Southwest or whatever, Colorado, place like Colorado or someplace like in that part of the United States, that's almost like a day trip. It's worth it to go down there and take a look at what's there. And those are the products that you adapt to that can change the mentality of going to the bottom, that can give you an ability to sell at a higher average unit selling price. Supply revenue that'll boggle the mind. The basic tenet of industrial production print, and this was taught to me by Frank Malosi more years ago than I can count. You sell a production print product. In those days, Frank was very active in building distribution for ViewTech, the ViewTech line that EFI had acquired in 2006. Anyway, to make a long story short, he said, yes, there's a nice margin on the hardware, but it's supplies. So I said, give me an example. He said, well, let's say you sell a ViewTech machine, 125,000. You will easily sell supply revenue equal to that amount in the first year. How's that? Not only that, but the chances are the margin on the supply revenue will be around 30%. And they sell those kind of supplies in 55-gallon drums. So, I don't know any other way to put it. You have to look. Now, are these the only products that you can think about? No. You've done a great job in a couple of issues on AI, and we've discussed that. You got to look at what you can do to increase the productivity and the proficiency of your sales organization. Metro Sales is winning in that battle with implants simply because Dan Toohey is highly experienced in that area. And when he came to Metro to take on Jerry's old job, he came well versed with production print. And he knew what the heck he had to do, built a first-class team, and they're doing great. So that's taking a dealership that was very traditional and really expanding its horizons. So I'd say the only way, you're not going to change things as they are today for the staple products in copying and print. There's no way. I don't see what you could possibly say or do that would say, well, we're going to get a higher margin in that area. It's not going to happen. So accept that. Doesn't go away. It's still a good part of the business. But look at other products, other areas that you can go, be it hardware, software, or any other product that comes up, makes sense selling to the same customer. Now you think of implants just in themselves. That's the enterprise. It's the enterprise that has those implants. So you go in there and now you sell an enterprise account with implants. And by the way, Scott, I meant to share this with you. I'll share it with our audience. I had a great conversation with John Fahey from Konica Minolta. He's in charge of, they have a fancy name for it, but basically he's in charge of major accounts. And he agreed with me. That's what he's doing. We're going to have him on one day. He's going to talk about this. And I think it'll be very interesting for our audience. So with that, I'm done for this.